Hi everybody, my name is Kat. I am a trip leader and field staff at the outdoor program at the University of Wyoming. I am here today at Happy Jack Trailhead, which was ancestral home of the Arapaho, Sioux, and Cheyenne people, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about skate skiing. So in this clinic I'm going to cover the basics of skate skiing, so this is a good starter if you're just learning how to skate ski and want to rent some gear, or maybe you've had gear but just don't know the technique and feel like you're working too hard. I'm going to cover what I call the C.H.A.T principles, which is basically the lower body of skating today. So first off, I want to talk a little bit about how the skis actually work and how you can get places using skate skiing. You're using the same motion as if you were figure skating, which means you're rolling onto the inside edge here and pushing off of the inside of your foot, basically. So the biggest problem that I run into with beginners is that learning that they have to get those edges dug into the snow, because otherwise they're just going to slip around like this, whereas if you lean in and grab them, they won't move as much. Here's how you get that skate ski motion going. First, you're going to want to have a really wide stance. That way, that if your skis get crossed over another, like this, if they get crossed in the back, you'll just slip out and it'll be really not fun. So you want a big wide stance with your knees bent, and then when you're ready to push, you roll onto one side and push off it like that. And then we're back in the center, and then rolling in and pushing off like that. And notice how wide I am standing. It might feel a little awkward at first, but I promise you, if you're trying to skate ski like this, it's really hard. C.H.A.T stands for C, commitment, H, hips, A, angles, T, timing. And I'm going to go through each one of those individually. So the first one starts with C, commitment, which means that you are committed to one side of your ski, and I'm going to give you a couple tips and tricks on how to make this work. So for basically everything today, you do not need your poles. My first tip, get rid of them. You don't need them the first time that you're learning. We're focusing solely on the motion from the legs down. So, C, commitment. That means you want to stand on one of your legs at a time. Now, that means you want to have your hips centered over one leg or the other. You don't want to hang out in the middle here because you're going to be working too hard. And skate skiing is all about technique and efficiency. So at first this is going to seem really, really hard. You might not get very far, but I promise you in the long run you're going to go so much faster, and it's going to be so much easier if you get these concepts down. So I'm going to show you a couple drills that you can do for this first one, commitment. And what the first one is you're just going to practice gliding as long as you can on each leg. You can even do this in place, just like I am right here, balancing on that one leg. Balancing is one of the hardest things to learn on these skis because they are so skinny and there's not much there. So here's that drill that I was talking about, where we want to practice how long we can stay on one ski and practicing that C, commitment, right? So we're gonna pause for the dog. We're gonna push off and glide and glide and glide and glide, right? So check out my legs in this here. I'm going to have it slowed down for you so you can really check it out. What I want you to think about is pushing with the flat foot to the side rather than with your toe like you're walking. Because if you start to do that, your ski tip is going to start dragging in the snow and it gets really hard. So on this drill, I want you to practice riding that ski out as long as you can and balancing on that one ski. Next thing I'm going to talk about is the H in C.H.A.T, which stands for hips. And we really want the hips up and forward. When you're learning how to skate ski, the tendency is for your butt to fall back like this. And we don't want that because it makes it really hard on your legs and your lower back, and you'll get really, really sore. So instead, I want you to think about driving your hips forward and up like this. And that will really help if you have your head up, and if you think there is a string attached to your belly button, which is pulling you forward like this. Here's a couple drills that you can do for hips. If you're still feeling pretty shaky on the balance, keep on practicing that first drill. The next drill, you grab your poles, which you were not using, and you put them behind your back like this, and just put a little bit pressure on that lower back and kind of make your hips drive forward as you ski, and I'll show you some examples. So you're going to ski along with the poles behind your back like this, and really thinking about head up and driving with your hips and your knees.
The biggest thing to be thinking about with this drill is keeping your head up, because your head will drive your entire body. So if you keep your head up, your hips will naturally follow.
Next is the A in CHAT, which stands for angles. And this one can get a little bit nitpicky. The angles that I'm talking about are the angles that go from the tip of your toe to your knee and your knee to your hips up like this. And the idea is that we want to have as small of an angle from here to here as we can, which means we want to push our knees forward, which in turn pushes my hips forward. And this is how we can propel ourselves down the trail. Now in reverse, if we have our knees are at a bigger angle, like this, immediately what happens is my butt rocks back. And then my chest goes down and everything goes out the window. So we want to think about having that angle all the way down there and a nice angle from your knees to your hips up like this. And when we're skating, we want to be in this nice, powerful stance, right? Next is T for timing or throw the coffee. For this one, you really need your poles, but if you're struggling with the first concepts, keep on working on those. Most of the time when you're learning skate skiing, you don't want to throw the poles in until you feel like you have got the legs down, because it gets really confusing with the poles, and everything can sometimes go out the window when you start thinking about hands and feet at the same time. So, put our poles on, and the throw the coffee stands, well, makes sense. You mean throw your coffee. You want to think you have coffee cups in two hands, and so when you pull, you want to throw the coffee up like this, right? You don't want any slack. If you're going like this, it makes the timing really hard, and I can't tell you why, but if you think about throwing that coffee, it will actually make the timing much easier to understand. So, when you're learning, and for the beginner basics, I'm going to be teaching you what's called a V2 alternate. You don't need to know that right now. So, V2 alternate, or what you're going to learn right now, is where you step on one hand and your poles go up, and then when you step onto the other foot, your poles go down, just like that. Just up and down. You might want to practice this, just standing still before you add anything else in, right? A couple notes with pulling. People want to pull with straight arms like this. Now what you notice is that when I have to pull, the muscles right here are not as strong as the muscles that I have in my core. We want to use those core muscles. And so instead of here, where I have to pull like this and I use all of these muscles instead of my core, we want to tuck our hands in a little bit, just like this. And so we can really get a crunch down with our core, right? I'm going to show you what that looks like now.
What I want you to notice is when I plant my poles when I'm doing this. So I am planting my poles milliseconds before I step onto my other foot. And then right when I step onto that foot, they go up and down. And then we step onto the foot and they go up, and then we step on the other and they go down.
Thank you all so much for watching. Happy skiing.